I spent years organizing and supervising in St. Petersburg in the early part of this century. And that, as Prabhu was saying, back in the days of the Soviet bloc in Eastern Europe, I was there from 1978.
Wow.
So the KGB and I were old friends. They were very angry. I don't look Slavic, how come they can't catch me? I was a very rare sight, so they were very angry. Why can we not get him? I had many identities. But I remember my St. Petersburg days. Of course, I've been everywhere in Russia. Focusing more now on USA. New York City is the place of my material birth as well as my spiritual birth. I started my bhakti career here in New York City in 1972. We'll do some chanting, and then we can discuss a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam that has great importance for your internal state, for your internal experience. So we'll speak and then Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Jai, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Isn't it wonderful chanting Hare Krishna in this surcharged tirtha, holy place of pilgrimage?
Jai Haribol.
I'm sure you all have meditated before on the significance of this place.
Many times.
Tried.
Just
That's
now, while we chanted. Also.
Yes. After wandering in New York City for a year without any supporters, Srila Prabhupada's first place that he could call his preaching place started here. We were speaking last Sunday on the 52nd anniversary of the incorporation of ISKCON about how Srila Prabhupada had the ISKCON Society registered, officially incorporated, but all the persons who signed the document had no idea, what is this? They were just all persons with minds taken away by intoxication. They liked the Swami, but they had no idea. What is this International Society for Krishna Consciousness? All right, someone wants me to sign? Okay. No one who signed the document, August 5th, 1966, no one had any idea what is this all about. Even two who later became initiated devotees, Mukunda, later became Mukunda Maharaj. And at that time, his girlfriend later became Janaki. They had no idea. Okay, the Swami wants us to sign these papers. They didn't even read the papers. They just, This is how Srila Prabhupada began, with no dedicated supporters. But because of the purity of his chanting, Krishna Bhakti spread all over the world. So this is the power of the Hare Krishna mantra. And it's something that we should always think about as we make our way through this material body and through the material world. Having a material body is complicated, yes. Living in the material world is complicated, yes. So many things are always pushing you. Complications are drawing you in. You just want peace. You just want happiness. You just want love. But there's always so many difficulties. Always something comes in the way, right? When I was in St. Petersburg, the first Russian words I learned were "Это мой karma." That was the universal explanation for all the problems. Yes, it's true. Actions bring about reactions. The intelligent person is thinking, how can I make a permanent solution to what is blocking my happiness, what is blocking my satisfaction? But there's so much pressure on you, so much outside influence. Just be happy for a few seconds. That'll be all right. Do something that will please you for a few moments. And what more can you expect? Work hard and be happy for a few moments. Doesn't get any better than that. So this is our problem. We have a very low standard of what is happiness, peace, and fulfillment. Very low standard. But because it's happening all around us, we get sucked in, we get dragged in. So to make progress in bhakti means to understand there is another level of happiness, another level of satisfaction. But we have to actually have a spiritual practice that will produce this other level. Otherwise, you can simply think, oh, I belong to a religion, we believe this. Others believe in that, but we believe this. But that will not give you the nourishment that you need, the experience that you need, and the detachment, renunciation that you need. It won't give you the satisfaction. So bhakti is not simply a religious belief. When I'm speaking at festivals in Russia, sometimes there are 1,200 persons in the audience. I ask, how many of you believe in Krishna? Raise your hand, how many believe in Krishna? I say, so what? Who cares? Nowhere in Bhagavad Gita does Krishna ask for you to believe in him. But because maybe we're coming from Christian background or Christian influence background or some Christian conception of religion, we think, oh, to believe in God, yes, I believe in Krishna. But Krishna doesn't want your belief. Anyone here is married? Right. Suppose your wife is here?
Yep.
Suppose you say to her, you know, what is her name?
Kishore Rani.
Kishori Rani.
Yes.
Kishori Rani, I believe in you. How will that make you feel? I believe in you. She wants to see a reciprocal relationship. Believe in me. Instead, you say, Kishori Rani, I believe you exist. How satisfactory is that for a dynamic relationship? I've been thinking hard. I've been deliberating. I've been meditating. I've been studying. And now, I think you exist. So is that what we want to offer to Krishna? Oh, Krishna, I think you exist. So I always point out that nowhere in Bhagavad Gita does Krishna ask for you to believe in it. Have you ever seen that verse where Krishna said, please believe in me? No. What does he say?
Surrender to me.
Mm-hmm. What else?
Think of me.
Always think of me. Mammana bhavamabhakto pachaji mamnamas. Become my devotee. Offer everything to me. Krishna wants a dynamic, active, reciprocal relationship. And that is what bhakti is all about. So today, since I think you want to study a verse, we're going to go to the 11th canto, chapter 2, verse 42. Oh, you have it on your phone. 11th canto, chapter 2, text 42. And we're going to discuss how to get beyond simply religious belief. The world is full of religious doctrines, religious dogmas, religious creeds. That's a very good beginning. But if you're actually going to get out of the grip of material life, you need more than religious doctrine and religious belief. Everyone has? Yes? 11th canto, chapter 2, verse 42.
11:242. Technical complication.
Yeah.
There is a book, so I find
Ready? 1 second? Okay. Okay. Now this doesn't have the Sanskrit arranged in the right lines here. We'll try. Bhakti Prasanubhavo Viraktir Anyatra Chaisha Trika Eka Kala Prapajamanasya Yatashnata Shus Tushti Pushti Shud Apayo Nugasam. We'll do the synonyms. Bhakti,
Bhakti,
devotion.
devotion,
Padaisha,
Paradisha
of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
of the Supreme Personality.
Anubhava,
Anubhava,
direct perception.
Direct perception.
Virakti,
Virakti.
detachment.
detachment,
Anyatra,
anyatra,
from everything else.
From everything else.
Cha,
cha,
and
and
Aisha,
esha,
This
Trika,
trika,
group of 3.
group of 3,
Ekakala,
ekakala,
simultaneously.
simultaneously,
Prapajamanasya,
prapajamanasya,
for one in the process of taking shelter of the Supreme Lord.
for one in the process of taking shelter of the Supreme Lord.
Yata,
Yata,
in the same way
in the
as
same way,
Ashnata,
ashnata,
for one engaged in eating.
for one engaged in eating.
Su,
Su,
they occur.
they occur.
Tushti,
Tushti,
satisfaction.
satisfaction.
Pushti,
Pushti,
nourishment.
nourishment.
Shut, apaya,
Shutapaya,
eradication of hunger.
eradication of hunger.
Anugasam,
Anugasam,
increasingly with each morsel.
increasing with each morsel.
Translation. Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These 3 occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. So we'll discuss this verse and its purport. Gives you a very practical example, because you want a practical bhakti life. You just don't want to be a religious believer. You want to experience the spiritual reality. The spiritual reality means devotional service to Krishna. When we talk about love of God, love of Krishna, we are speaking of the flood of devotional service. Just like here at 26 2nd Avenue. You can feel that this is just like the source of the Ganga. This is the source of the flood of devotional service throughout the world. So you want to swim in that flood. You want to splash in that flood. It's nothing theoretical. It's an experience that absorbs you. That is what Krishna's offering. An experience for all your senses. In other words, bhakti is not about just sitting in a chair thinking of some metaphysical philosophy or theology. Bhakti is about engaging all your senses in Krishna's service. So the bhakti science gives you some transcendental activity for each of your senses. If you don't have that, and if you simply have religious belief, you'll be engaging your senses in material life, with material sense objects, regardless of whatever religious belief that you say you belong to. Just look at what the senses are doing. That tells you what the reality is. So, eating is not a theoretical activity. When you eat nice food offered to Krishna, it is a very definitive, very real experience. So therefore, it is interesting that in this Srimad Bhagavatam text, eating food is given as a comparison for what the bhakti experience does for you. So we are far from just merely believing in God. Just like when you're having a good feast of Krishna Prasad. Are you being mental and are you thinking, oh, I believe this is good. I believe this is tasty. No, you're absorbed, you're locked in. Just think. You're having some luscious, delicious pizza prasad. Do you hold the piece of pizza in your hand and I believe in you? No, you want to. You want to get into it. So this is why the comparison with eating is used in this verse from the 11th canto. 3 things happen when you eat, and 3 things happen when you engage in bhakti. So let's talk about those 3 things. We'll discuss in the opposite way that this verse presents. The verse presents first the 3 that occur simultaneously when you take shelter of Krishna's service. And then it discusses the 3 things that happen when you eat. But we're going to go the opposite way. First, when you eat, what happens? We're assuming that the food is good. First of all, you get pleasure. Yes. Who is a good cook here? Everyone? You are a good cook? Who cooked for tonight? Anything? Nothing? Okay, you're a good cook? Oh. Okay. So, you can hear that everyone has confidence in you. Oh, there's going to be pleasure. So that's the first thing Bhagavatam says. When you eat, each bite, you're getting pleasure. But not only pleasure, not only tushti, but also pushti, nourishment. If you've been very hungry and you're eating something very good, you are tasting both the pleasure and the nourishment. And then what else? There is Shut Apaya, eradication of hunger. With each bite, you're having pleasure, nourishment, and the hunger is increasingly going away. So how does this compare to the bhakti experience? By engaging in Krishna service. That's what it means to take shelter of Krishna, of course. Taking shelter of Krishna is not some intellectual or metaphysical calculation. It is about engaging the senses for the pleasure of Krishna. So yes, there is pleasure in that. Bhakti brings the pleasure, the tushti, the satisfaction. This takes some time for us to fully appreciate. How can you attain pleasure by service? Whenever you think of service, material conditioning comes to your mind. Because we're in this material world to be master, to be served. But to engage in devotional service and realize that by being subordinate to Krishna, by satisfying Krishna's senses, that is pleasure. It takes a while for us to understand that. When you first come to bhakti, what is your overriding concern? What is your main concern, your main issue when you first come? Who remembers? Yes?
That it's a sect, like a sect, and people are just kind of trying you to get into that. But this is the mentality, we kind of, a lot of people in Russia grew up with, seeing the like Krishna consciousness.
A lot of people grew up seeing Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, and thinking that this is actually sectarian, they didn't explain in like right way.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
The lack of knowledge, basically.
Yes, the lack of
Yeah.
And understanding.
But what I'm speaking about, I appreciate what you said. What I'm speaking about is what was your motivation in taking up Krishna consciousness bhakti?
You would like to become like they. I would like to become like they are. Like when I see devotees first time, then.
But go deeper. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is pointing out that underneath all that is one of four basic motivations. Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukatena arjuna arto jigyasu atarti gyaninas tattvadarsh. Huh? Gyani what? So, most persons, when I ask this question all over the world, the majority, and I've asked it in Russia also, they say, my motivation was I was distressed. What does it mean to be distressed? I was tired of material existence and struggling for material pleasure. Most persons say like that. A few say I was curious about metaphysical things. Very few say I was looking for the topmost knowledge. And some say I was looking for a good place to stay and some good food. What were you, Hladini Shakti?
I was distressed and I was looking for truth.
Uh-huh.
I was looking for how could we be happy. There's so much suffering in the world and I'm suffering.
But what was your predominant motivation? Was it looking for truth, or was it you wanted to escape distress?
It was looking for truth, really.
Oh, yeah. We come to bhakti with these motivations, but what are you getting in return? You're getting devotional service, which gives you tushti, pleasure, satisfaction. And this is contrary to what we think. We think satisfaction means I am pleased. Yes? If someone tries to please you, you think, oh, that is satisfaction. But in bhakti you find that you're trying to please Krishna's senses. And that is real satisfaction. So your concept of pleasure changes. When you start to see that happening, you know you're making some spiritual advancement. Maybe some of you remember when you started your bhakti and your friends or family noticed this changes in you. What do you remember?
Like they said, something changed. You like glowing or something.
Oh, they were appreciating?
Yeah.
Anyone else? It's not always appreciation.
It's not always an appreciation.
What did they say?
Well, I recently went to my city in Russia after like a long time. And
Where is that?
It's in Vladivostok.
Oh, yeah.
And I spent 2 months there and being in temple with the Russian devotees all the time. And my parents like doesn't like that. They think that I'm in sect and they're very aggressive about all of that.
So they saw changes in you, but they didn't like it.
Yes, they did. But they think that my happiness is like that I'm not well, actually.
Anyone else? Yeah.
My mother said, okay, Sunny, I accept everything, but please don't accept sannyas.
What did you tell her? You said, no, I have a beautiful wife. I will not accept sannyas.
Well, it happened after 2 decades or so.
What did they notice?
The habits are changing, thus the taste did before.
So your family and friends noticed your habits are changing.
Yeah. First, I think also I was always eager to obtain more knowledge. So when like a 20-year-old boy still started to talk to people who are 30, 40 years old and like start to telling them about spiritual knowledge, whatever I heard from everywhere, lectures or swamis or whatever, and when I would tell them these things, they would become in shock, like, where's this coming from? Like, where did you get it?
Were they appreciating or just
They were
frightened?
I think I was trying to make sense, so they didn't know what to say, like, because this is not a usual type of information.
I remember for me, I was living in Manhattan, on 90th Street in Central Park West, between Columbus Avenue and Central Park West, 90th Street. And I remember my friend coming over to visit me. We would go out in the city, do things. And one day, I didn't mention at all to him that I was seriously studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. I didn't mention that at all. Then one day he just looked at me and said, "What's happening to you? What has come over you? I'm going to have to get a new friend." I didn't tell him anything, but he just sensed my material enjoying spirit was disappearing and he felt threatened. Oh. I never saw him again. That was my best friend. So, the pleasure from bhakti changes your conceptions of pleasure. So for the first time in your life, you're experiencing pleasure from serving. Now, you may say that in ordinary existence, material existence, people are serving others. But there's always some selfish motive. What will I get from this? But devotional service to Krishna gives you the opportunity to serve without any material motivation, without wanting anything material in return. And the more our service is like that, the more pleasurable it is. But a real devotee is not thinking of his or her own pleasure. Sounds like a paradox, yes? Sounds contradictory. How do you get pleasure without thinking of your own pleasure? How does it happen in bhakti? Krishna is certainly interested in your happiness. The secret is given in the advanced bhakti text, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. There it is explained that although Krishna's most intimate devotees never think of their own happiness and never act for their own happiness, Krishna forces happiness on them. What do you think of that? Never do they think of their own satisfaction. But Krishna is always thinking of their satisfaction and forces pleasure on them. That is real love. So that is, of course, the peak, the pinnacle of bhakti. So, tushti, pleasure, and then pushti, nourishment. What nourishes you in your devotional life? Anubhava, direct experience. Not religious belief, but direct experience. When you eat, you can try it tonight. You're getting direct experience. Simply when you engage in Krishna's service. Paresha Anubhava, direct experience of the Paresha, the Supreme. That nourishes you. In other words, your spiritual life is not energized by religious theory or metaphysical speculation. It is energized by the dynamics of direct experience. Now, you may be just a neophyte, you may just be a beginner, but still you have some direct experience. Because in bhakti, even though you're a beginner, you can perceive what is the ultimate goal. Just like when you're driving on a highway and the sign says, say you're driving from Moscow to St. Petersburg. The sign says 500 kilometers more, St. Petersburg, 400 kilometers more. So you get confirmation that you're going the right way. Similarly, in our bhakti efforts, even the beginners get some glimpse that, yes, I see where I should be going. I'm not there, but I see where I should be going. That's the greatest fortune, the greatest wealth. And of course, all your life you're spending your energy for Krishna, trying to get to that ultimate destination of pure love, pure bhakti. So this is the nourishment, that direct experience of Krishna gives. And that direct experience comes through service. This is what you've been longing for, devotional service to Krishna. How to engage your senses for Krishna's pleasure. So the devotional service gives you that direct experience, and therefore you become stronger. But what else does it do? Just like when you're eating, there's shut-apaya, cessation of hunger pangs. You know what hunger pangs feel like? Hungry, I gotta eat something. So similarly, by engaging in Krishna's service, you feel relief from material cravings and hankerings. Just like when you're eating, with each bite, you feel less and less hunger pangs, hunger urges. But this is a material example, eating. And it doesn't completely match up with the bhakti experience. At first, it's a good example. Of course it's a good example. It's given by the sages in 11th canto. But it's not a complete example. When you're eating food, and we'll try it tonight, you lose interest in what's happening around you. Your main attention is focused on what you're eating. Ah, yes. Even someone's trying to talk to you, but you want to focus on your tongue and what your tongue is tasting. Yes, you can remember that. Someone could be talking to you and right? Similarly, when you engage in Krishna's service, this verse is explaining that you lose interest in anything else. That may alarm some people, your old friends, your old family members. What's happened to you? Where's your material appetite for material enjoyment? So that is a natural consequence of the bhakti experience. Just like when you're eating food, you lose interest in what else is going on. And you get totally absorbed in your tongue. But how does this example of eating not completely apply to the bhakti experience? Because the normal eating process means that after a while, you lose interest in the food. Can't eat anymore. Someone brings more. I've had 20 pieces of pizza. No more. But in devotional service, you don't lose your appetite. What happens instead? It always increases. Then you know that you're performing the bhakti process properly, when your spiritual appetite is always increasing. And in this way, the bhakti develops to a mature level, which is lobha, greed. Spiritual greed, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita says, far exceeds any greedy experience you've had in the material world. How many of you know what it's like to be greedy? What have you been greedy for before? Huh? Shopping. What they call here retail therapy. How do you get greedy about shopping? I'm going to go out shopping and just buy. You must have a lot of money. You just, I want to buy. I want to go to a mall and buy. Is that really?
I can find some beautiful dress. And even there is
I bought something beautiful for me. Adi Shakti, you're going?
No,
Ah.
I'm
Going on an insect.
All right.
They call it an insect.
When have you been greedy?
Money.
Money.
Pleasures.
Pleasures. I've got to have it.
I still like chocolate.
So you just get a big box of chocolate and just.
Not anymore. No, not like that. Not like
But you used to.
not like that. Yeah.
You used to just.
Well, I switched to dark. And,
More healthy, right? You're taking it for the health,
and,
right?
and then, like, you know, not in the big quantities as I used to. I still take it.
You used to take huge amounts.
Yes. Yes.
You didn't get fat?
No, I have good metabolism.
Okay. So you know about greed for chocolate.
Yeah, I mean, and it actually happened to me when I stopped having like bad habits. You know, like drinking and stuff like that. It started when my devotional life started to kick in.
Your greed for chocolate started.
I switched to sweets.
Oh, it's Krishna's fault, huh?
And now it's slowly progressing to go, well, it's also with the knowledge to drop the sugar totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. In New Zealand, where I spend some months, they have a famous shop that sells chocolate. The name of the shop is Death by Chocolate. Because everyone thinks, oh, that's wonderful. Death by chocolate, yes.
Not the worst death.
So what else? What have you been greedy for?
Yeah, like money.
I've got to have more money.
Yes, and also like when buying the things, you know that you don't even need that, but you will buy just in case.
Like what?
Maybe, like clothes or something else, or you're greedy if you have something and you already don't use it. Instead of like donating it, you still keep it to yourself because you like
Yeah,
don't wanna.
that's. Yes, I understand what you're saying, but greed is like, I want it. I can't get enough of it. I've got to have it.
Also, maybe in a relationship, sometimes the attachment of like the greed for another person also.
Anyone else? You have been greedy before?
I guess. I read her comment about being attached to other people and wanting other people's time and attention.
You've got to spend more time with me. You've got to give me more attention. That's your function. That's your purpose.
Greedy by acknowledgement from other people.
Greedy for appreciation, for respect.
I do everything.
I was greedy for sport, and from that to became famous.
But yes, not really the sports you're greedy for.
Fame.
Yes, fame, you're greedy to be. Recognition.
Yeah.
When I was living in Manhattan, I was greedy for the best times, the best events. I was always going to some concert, some music club. I had an appetite that would not go away. This music, that music, here, there. And New York City, especially Manhattan, was the best place for that. All of this that you mentioned cannot compare to spiritual greed. Loyal. That's why Rupa Goswami explains. If someone could actually sell spiritual greed in a shop, buy it immediately. Don't delay. Of course, it can't be sold in a shop. The greed that we have experienced in the material world, it gives only the slightest understanding of what spiritual greed is like. So that's why this example about eating doesn't completely hold up in comparison to the bhakti experience. Because you'll get tired of what you're eating. But in bhakti, if you're performing it properly, and that means under direction, your appetite simply increases. You never get enough Krishna. Do you realize that? You never get enough Krishna. You know about the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan? Did they ever get enough Krishna? No. They were always searching, Krishna, where are you? They never got enough. And do you know what Lord Chaitanya says in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita? He's Krishna himself in the role of Krishna's devotee to show us what it's like to be a devotee. So he says, if you see tears in my eyes while I'm chanting, you should know it's just a show. Why? Because if I actually loved Krishna, I would have died long ago from separation. So the more that you become attached to Krishna, the more you want Krishna. This is the paradox. This is the contradictory thing about spiritual advancement. The more you get, the less you think you have. You never become full. You want more and more and more. Not that, oh, I have been serving Krishna for 30 years, for 40 years. I am full. No. You feel that I have nothing, I need more. So it goes on eternally like that. And similarly, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that there's a competition between Krishna and his devotee that goes on eternally. The devotee is simply thinking how to please Krishna. But Krishna is simply thinking how to please the devotee. So they're just competing. The devotee does something for Krishna. Krishna thinks, I must do something for my devotee. And it goes on and on like that eternally. Each one thinks, I haven't done enough. The devotee thinks, I haven't done enough for Krishna. And Krishna thinks, I haven't done enough for the devotee. This is life on the pure bhakti platform. So we need to hear this so that we can reduce our fear of engaging in Krishna service. Where does that fear come from? Impersonalism, voidism. We're so afraid of being disappointed. We're so afraid of even our own spiritual identity. We're afraid of that. So the bhakti life is always increasing in attraction for Krishna. But eating, you'll get tired of eating. Even if it's offered to Krishna and it's very wonderful, you can't just go on eating. But devotional service to Krishna increases in its freshness. Now, let me explain one secret why devotional service always seems fresh. Nava rasa, newer flavor, newer rasa. Do you know why? What's going on? That's inner dynamics. The Paramatma, the super soul in your heart, is allowing you to perceive the eternal freshness of devotional service. By engaging in service, the Paramatma in your heart says, I'm going to let you detect, I'm going to let you see the Navarasa. So you can be doing the same service day after day. You ever wonder sometimes, how can devotees do the same service every day, year after year? I have one recently departed godmother, Yamaraj does. He was the graphics designer for Back to Garden magazine, arranging all the photos, the graphics, the articles. He did the same service for almost 50 years. We always think change will bring pleasure. But the super soul in your heart will let you see that you can be doing what looks like the same service year after year, decade after decade, but it's ever fresh. You can taste the Navarasa. So that's the inner spirit of bhakti. Just like chanting Hare Krishna. The super soul is helping you experience and understand that the holy name of Krishna is ever fresh. So you may be thinking, oh, on my own, I'll never be able to chant nicely, right? Sometimes you think that. My mind is wandering, oh, I'll never be able to pay attention. But the super soul in your heart can help you. This is the wonderful helping experience in bhakti. You're not alone. There's the soul and the super soul. So there's complete hope for your spiritual advancement. If you act properly in bhakti, your taste will not dry up. You have to be careful though. This is why we need enlivening association. All right, you have some questions? We're having a good discussion at this most sacred tirtha, holy place of pilgrimage.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for a wonderful elaboration of this verse. I would like to know your opinion about the situation that sometimes devotees get kind of trapped in the philosophy. Like if philosophy, Krishna consciousness means like to be more logic about all this big body of knowledge which we get from Srila Prabhupada's books, and sometimes we tend to think that this is, the philosophy itself is bhakti, and we become like philosophers, but not really, and somehow we lose the sense of being experiencer, like experiencing relation, because sometimes we are afraid of becoming like, sahajiyas or too sentimental or something like that. What would you recommend for a devotee to be like really like alive, to be like fresh, to not to get stuck, not to become like wheelchair philosopher? That's what I mean.
It is true that Krishna says at the end of Bhagavad Gita, one who studies Bhagavad Gita worships Krishna with the intelligence. But you see, bhakti is a full program for all your senses. Unless you know how to use all of your senses in Krishna's service, the senses that are not engaged properly can get you into trouble. So you need a complete program. Yes, if you want to be intellectual, study the books. But the studying of the books should lead to application. It is true, studying the books is purifying. It's not ordinary philosophy. Bhagavatam is the literary presence of Krishna. So we can't just say it's information, it's philosophy. No, it is direct presence of Krishna. And I was explaining to someone a few days ago, in the 11th canto, there's one verse that says that the Vedic knowledge is actually embodied in the core of every living being. So by hearing that knowledge, that knowledge is connecting to their natural core. So the sound vibration is not just informational, something you get from the internet. No, it is the presence of Krishna. The test that you're actually hearing about Krishna is that you want to engage all your senses in Krishna's service. And wherever you look, you become greedy. Ah, that is meant for Krishna's pleasure. He is meant for Krishna's pleasure. She is meant for Krishna's pleasure. That's the result of actually studying the philosophy. Just like someone who's a thief. Wherever they go, they see opportunity to steal. Someone who's very lusty. Wherever they go, they see that opportunity. Similarly, if you're making spiritual advancement from studying properly the bhakti knowledge, the result is you become greedy to engage everything in Krishna's service. And that's why, what does Mahaprabhu say? Yare deko tare koho Krishna upadesh. Ama agyan guru hoya taro idesh. Wherever you go, whomever you meet, teach the science of Krishna. That is the same thing as Krishna saying, Sarva Dharman Prachaja. Abandon all your conceptions and surrender to me. Lord Chaitanya is saying the same thing. Wherever you go, whomever you meet, teach the science of Krishna. That's the same as Krishna saying, surrender to me. I was explaining last week here how in the early 70s when I was a Sankirtan devotee here in New York, going out 7 days a week, the common thing we heard from all the people in New York was, you people are everywhere. There must be thousands of you. Because we would go everywhere. Many times, not simply having one Harinam party, but 2 or 3 Harinam parties at the same time. Wherever people gathered, we would go. And there was agreed how to engage everyone in Krishna's service, how to give everyone a chance to be connected to Krishna. So that's the result of actual reading of the philosophy. Not, as you say, to become a, you said, wheelchair theologian or armchair theologian. Wheelchair. We don't want you to
more
be
advanced.
paralyzed theologian in a wheelchair. This translates into Russian, armchair theologian. You can translate.
Not really.
Диванный философ.
No, not really.
There must be something, but we
Yeah.
cannot pick up the word.
Other questions? Well, first from you know everything. Yes.
Можешь привести, спросила, чем фанатизм отличается от веры? Можешь так
He's asking me to translate.
Mm.
What's the difference between fanaticism and belief?
Difference between
Fanatism,
fanaticism and
fanaticism,
and
and faith.
faith.
You know, like real faith.
Real faith is based on hearing from authority. The authority says, this is a cup. You say, this is a cup. But by accepting what the authority says, you are able to get experience and realization. But first you have to hear. That hearing process gives you your own realization. Religious fanaticism comes when there's no process of experience or realization. just repeating some slogans, some words, you know? You understand? You must believe this, you must believe this, you must believe this. That's fanaticism. No process for confirming your faith so you can experience your faith. Now, there are so many things in bhakti that are far beyond our ordinary perception. You just read Chaitanya Charitamrita. Oh. But at least there's a process given by which you can make progress. If you want to. Of course, still, even an advanced devotee thinks, as Rupa Goswami has stated, I have no love for Krishna. I don't even have any attraction for the process of developing love for Krishna. But Ashabandha, hope against hope. One day, the Lord will be merciful to me. And that hope is driving me onward. Not that hope is making me give up and I'll just go to sleep. The hope is pushing me onward in devotional service. Okay? Yes.
Like when people sometimes who's not devotees, and sometimes people even don't really believe in God, they assume God exists, and they talk about their problems and you feel for them really, really bad. You know, like how it's hard and you know it's painful, and they talk about it, and you know, like you just chant Hare Krishna, but I know I can just say to those people, chant Hare Krishna, I will be happy, because I know they just will turn around, they will not understand. It's too early to them and for them to say this. And I know my level of belief is not that strong that I can just give the pure bhakti to the person. So what to do, like, in those cases when it's like, you just started yourself and you're like, I know the answer to your problems, but if I'll tell it to you now, you're just not gonna understand in the best case scenario, and they will just assume you're a fanatic in this. And the worst thing will be that you will never want to hear Hare Krishna again. So,
Are you sure
yeah,
that will happen? You're sure?
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
You think so? Huh? You should feel enthusiastic to speak according to your realization. If all you can say is, Mahamantra meditation will really allow you to see the root of your problems. What's wrong with that? I mean, if you just say, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. That may not be the best way, but it is true what you said. When there were little children of devotees who would just tell people, do you know who Krishna is? Krishna is Supreme Personality Godhead. Prabhupada would say, this is big preaching. So, don't be afraid to say something. And gradually, Krishna will give you the intelligence how to be more expert in giving the medicine. But always give the medicine.
Sometimes when I still say, like, well, chant, right? Play or do at least something, they say, I have no strength to chant, to pray, to do anything. You know, people are just so soaked in their problems that they say, like, even saying a small little prayer, it's like too much.
But at least you tried.
Okay.
That's all you can do, is try your best. And gradually, Krishna will give you more intelligence. But you have to try. People are suffering. You try your little best. It's not your fault. you should chant Hare Krishna. Is that a fault? No. Gradually you'll become more expert at getting past their defenses, you know. I had to start somewhere. I wasn't always saying like I'm saying now. You have to begin your bhakti medical career somewhere.
Start doing haircuts for free.
So proceed. Help them according to your capacity. That will give pleasure to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even if you just say, chant Hare Krishna, that's not wrong. They may not hear it at that time, but maybe in the future they'll remember. She told me I should chant Hare Krishna. What is that and why? Okay? All right, how are we doing for time?
You still have a lot of time. Half an hour.
Okay.
You can chant it by yourself.
More questions? Yes.
Well, it's not more like a question, like more adding to what we just spoke about. My personal experience in coming, like leaving Russia, being not devotee at all, and then coming back as with this attitude. I just was tired not being who I am, and I just wanted everybody to know. So I just like when my friends asked me, and I was sure that they won't understand that because I know the opinion of the people. I just explained them, and I was surprised because all of my friends, they actually, I mean, they're not gonna go to do this maybe for now, but everybody was very understanding, and everybody told me, oh, you know, because you explained that, next time we see like Harinama walking around, we're gonna know what is that.
Okay, yes, so you're explaining according to your capacity, yes?
That's it.
Yes. Sometimes they will appreciate, and sometimes they won't. But you go on with your spiritual medical work. We distribute so many books, and we hope to increase. We don't know where these books are going to, where they will go. They go so many places. When I was a young devotee in New York City, there was a Harinam party, and there was one person who would always come and steal all the boxes of Bhakti-Gita magazines. They didn't like the Harinam party. We used to have behind the party would be in a line, and then behind them would be boxes of Bhakti-Gita magazines. And he would always come and take the box. These people are crazy. One day he decided, maybe I should read the magazine. And he became a devotee. So you don't know how things are going to turn out. Do you know what my reaction was when I first saw devotees on television? What did I think? Oh, such saintly persons. Oh, I want to be like them. They are the saviors of the world. You think, no, I wasn't thinking. I didn't think like that. This is my last month at university. And my roommate and I turned on the television to get some relief because our final exams were coming and we were studying hard. We turned on the television. We used to watch television with the volume turned all the way down and then speculate on what was happening. And that way we demonstrated our elitist educational status. As the top students, we had to watch television in a way that's different from the masses. So we would keep the volume turned all the way down and then speculate. What could that be? I think it's this. But we Suddenly we saw these devotees on television. And we couldn't figure out, what is this? I remember telling my roommate, who are these aliens? Turn up the volume. We can't figure this out. That was my first reaction. And then we listened. They explained their lifestyle. Getting up early in the morning. And the rules they follow. Know this, know that, know that, know that. I remember turning to my roommate and saying, these people are fools. They have missed the goal in life. And the devotees kept using the word Ananda. That was big preaching back then. This is the way for Ananda, pure bliss. Stay high forever, Ananda. So, I learned it. I learned that word immediately. So when I was telling my roommate, these people are fools. Listen to their lifestyle, the rules they follow. They're crazy. And I said, we'll invite them to one of our parties. We'll show them what Ananda is. One month later, I was reading Bhagavad Gita. So we just need to increase the outreach. And you'll see these kind of miracles happen.
Maharaj, you remember those old days, you know, when you were doing direct preaching on the streets in New York City, and now how you see the difference between people of those days, the modern people, and how you see the role of devotees, the place of the devotees in the modern society, in terms of, you know, giving people, I mean, knocking through their defense system to get, you know, to become understood. You know.
Sometimes persons ask me, should we do direct preaching? Should we do indirect preaching? I say, do it all. Main thing is, do something. Why waste time arguing? Direct, indirect. Just get out, do something. And then we can see. But if everyone's simply theorizing, arguing, this is the best way. No, this is the best. Go out and do it. Then we'll see. So here in New York City, we'll see some old ways and we'll see some new ways. Let's just get things going. Yes, people are different than in the 60s and 70s, that's true. So maybe we have some different tactics, but we also have our eternal tactics, our old tactics. Just like when I was chanting today at Union Square. It's like a flashback to the 70s. Same thing. People are dressed differently, but still they're gathering around, they're watching, they're buying books. Some people are watching from a safe distance. But I can see they're watching, just like in the 70s. So, today I'm at Union Square, chanting in Harinam Party. Tuesday I was at the Bhakti Center with a sacred ecology program. Let us try everything and encourage everyone. When I see the devotees in the Harinam Party, so dedicated, makes me very happy. Seeing the books go out. And others have a way of preaching, outreach, for contacting highly placed persons and gaining friends for Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan mission. Okay. Just like Tuesday, I was speaking extensively with one professor from where I went to university. Therefore, we had something in common. So, yeah, we had a good time talking. He's becoming very friendly with devotees. That is something, yes? So let's try all these different ways. And encourage everyone. So that's the wonder of New York City. It's such a diverse city. So many different things can go on at the same time. There's so many diverse people, diverse ethnicities. When I was a young child growing up in Queens, I remember on my street block, one block, there were 13 nationalities. No, that's New York City. So we need to try all different approaches and for all different people. Be bold in that way. I remember even for Sankirtan, we tried, you know what a lollipop is?
Mm-hmm.
What do you call in Russian lollipop?
Chupa-chups.
Huh?
Chupa-chups.
You don't agree with it?
Chupa chups.
Chupa chups.
The candy.
No, it's the circle of candy on a stick.
Yeah.
What is that?
Zak.
Yes, you know, like it's on a stick. It's a circle like on a stick. So we used to distribute them on Sankirtan in New York. Did you Sankirtan? Did you know that?
Yeah.
Lollies.
Dum-dums, right?
No, lollies.
How brahmacharis could survive this sweets every day?
Because Prabhupada told us it's just sugar and water with some flavoring if you can even offer it to the deity. Prabhupada told us that. So I remember going somewhere here in this area, finding a wholesaler for these lollies. I think in Australia, New Zealand, UK, they call them lollies. In America, they call them lollipops. Yes?
Yeah.
Lollipops. Lollies, lollipops. I would go to the wholesaler and get big boxes. And then you would approach the person, here, have a lollipop. Here's a book, here's a magazine, give a donation. So it's prasad. Prabhupada told us you can offer it to the deities, it's just sugar or water with some flavoring. Prasad distribution in mass is so effective in New York. You've heard the stories about the prasad distribution. So much to do. So here we are at 26 Second Avenue, the formal place where Prabhupada began his preaching activities. Finally, he had his own place. And it wasn't immediately full of dedicated followers. At first, they were just hippies coming and crashing out at night. You know this term, crash pad? No, you don't. Just They would come to the door. Hey, I need a place to stay. Can I stay tonight? Yeah, here's a spot in the floor. Just be up in the morning when the Swami comes. Yeah, okay. You didn't do that, Alini. You didn't come and crash. Atmosphere was too intense for you at the time. He came in 1967 to
Really?
programs here. Yes,
Wow. Cool.
but he was a Mayavadi. There was too much talk about Krishna, so he wasn't ready. He needed many years of Prabhupada defeating him through his books. Yes, but he came in 67. He talked to Brahmananda.
I like the prasad. Even the incense was nice.
Did Brahmananda ever remember you?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I saw him in Davis Siddhant Mandir in Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
and in the Brooklyn Temple. I
Ah.
see him.
He remembered talking to you.
You know, we never talked about that.
Anyone remembered you from those days?
Pushkar remembered me from those days.
He was Pushkar was here in 67?
No,
Oh.
he saw, well, those days, you know, a little bit later at
Ah.
Henry Street.
I don't remember you from Henry Street.
I came a few times.
Ah.
I did my first service there. I got tilak put on my head by one Mataji, and I had a marigold garden outside my apartment. So I strung together some garlands and I gave them for the deities. And I felt thrilled. It was like you were saying before, when you do service for Krishna, you feel a thrill. I felt thrilled. I thought, wow, they took the garlands. Wow.
Anything else? Very good questions today.
How did you join?
Oh, that's a long story. I love the books, but I thought devotees were very strange. I thought they were all hippies. And I was very much wanting to see political and economic change. But then I realized without a change in consciousness, politics and economics is not going to help. So I would just, make a long story short, I would just read the books at home. 90th and Central Park West. I just read and read 3 hours a day. Get my books through the mail so I wouldn't have to talk to devotees.
Wow.
Had it all figured out. Because I had purchased a book at the Jersey City Pass Station. I saw one devotee. And so I went up to him. What do you got there? He showed me some books. So I got one. Transcendental Teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. And then I took it to where I was going. And right on page 2, I was devastated. Prabhupada was repeating Prahlad Maharaj's teachings to his demoniac school friends. Sukham andriyakam daitya deha dehinam yogin. Sarvacha labhyate daivad yata dukam ayatnata. The happiness derived from the contact of the senses with the sense objects can be had in any species of life. And then Prabhupada added some spice to that. So why should you work so hard to get the same taste that the dog is getting? I read that. I actually collapsed. I was sitting on a couch reading, and then when I got to the part, why should you work so hard to get the same taste that the cats and dogs are getting? I just collapsed. I felt like I got hit in the chest with a missile. So then I immediately decided I'm going to go to Greenwich Village, West 4th Street, where I know there are special bookshops. I'm going to find out more books by the Swami whose name I can't pronounce. So next day I went to Greenwich Village. And West Village, I think it was like around 6th Avenue and West 4th Street. Famous bookshop there. And I got Bhagavad Gita and a very abridged or smaller version of Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. I took those home and read them. And I saw the address for BBT in Los Angeles, so I wrote them for more books. So I would get all my books in that way. Krishna books, Nectar Devotion, Sri Upanishad. Then one day, after 6 months of that, I got a letter from the BBT mail order department that the first deluxe version of first canto Bhagavatam was about to come out. Because before that, they were just the volumes Prabhupada brought over from India. Very roughly done. But now, for the first time, there would be the posh, polished version. And the letter described, this was the encyclopedia of the spiritual world. I said, wow, the encyclopedia of the spiritual world. I've got to have that. Right, it takes all the, Bhagavatam takes all the themes of Bhagavad Gita and expands upon them. I said, wow. I've got to get that book immediately. I can't wait for it to come in the mail. I've got to go find a devotee. I've got to take that risk. So that's how I started associating with devotees. I had to go find a devotee in order to get Srimad Bhagavatam. I had to take that risk. So that was the first question I asked when I saw a devotee at Port Authority bus terminal. I knew they were there. I would never let them stop me before. Sometimes I would walk by them and watch them. I love their books, but they look so strange. So now I was going to find a devotee. So there was this devotee, Mataji, in the center of the floor at Port Authority bus terminal. Thousands of people were rushing here and there. So I wanted to see if she would stop me. I walked by her once, I walked by her twice. She didn't stop. I was very fashionably attired. Big hairs, long suede coat.
Was it Daiji Shakti?
So finally, I said, all right, she's not going to stop me. I'm going to have to approach her. And I'll just ask her a normal question, everyday question. So I walked up to her and said, excuse me, do you have Srimad Bhagavatam? I just thought it was a normal question. She blinked, but then she caught herself, like, oh, how do you know about that? I said, I'm not here to answer questions. I just want to know, do you have the book? No, tell me, how do you know about that? So that's how it all started. I couldn't get rid of her. I said, I just want the book. I don't want to talk to you. But she wouldn't let me get away. So that's how it started.
But what happened right after that? How did you get the book?
She changed me up. She changed from talking about the book to the new building that they were trying to get. Yes. She said, you know, we're trying to get a new building, and you've been reading the books, you can really appreciate it. It's going to have theater, restaurant, library, auditorium. You could really, this is a place that you would want to visit. We're just looking for persons who can donate. Donate? I don't give anyone money. I just want to know, do you have the books? No, but you can help. I know you can help. I couldn't get rid of her. So finally I told her, look, I'll leave you some money in my will. I said, oh, you're 21 years old, you don't have a will. True, I didn't have a will. So she went on and on. Finally I said, look, even if I wanted to give you money, I don't carry money with me. It's all at my father's place where I stay. 90th Street, Central Park West. Long way, so I'm sorry. She said, let's go! I said, no. I argued, no. I was thinking, what will people think of me coming with this strange looking girl, you know? Wearing some yellow sari, because there were no fancy saris then. They were like bed sheets. The married ladies wore yellow sheets, and the unmarried ladies wore pink sheets. And then everyone wore gray hoodies.
Gray hoodies.
Huh?
Gray hoodies.
Yeah. Gray colored, like, you know. So then they had the white mark on their face. She had a red dot also because she was married. I said, well, I'm going to go on the subway uptown with this? But I couldn't get rid of her. Finally, we went together, got on the train. Is it still the AA train, local?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's in 86th Street. So then I told her to stay downstairs at the apartment building. I didn't want anyone to see her. You know, didn't want my family to see her. So you wait here, I'll come down with something. So I went upstairs, came down with a check. I'll translate into today's currency because the value of the dollar has changed, just so you get some understanding of it. The true financial impact. I gave her a check for $10,000.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my God.
You know what she did? She looked at me and said, "This is very nice, but I'd like 20,000." I said, "Are you crazy? I have never given a penny in charity in my life. I have written you a check for $10,000, and now you want 20." But she wouldn't take no for an answer. So there we are on the street, on the sidewalk, arguing like this. And then the super soul tricked me. Because there are big apartment buildings all around. And I heard this voice in my heart say, "Everyone is watching you. Walk to this strange lady. You better give what she wants so your reputation in the neighborhood will still be okay." I didn't know anyone in the neighborhood. It's New York City, you know. You don't know your neighbors. Especially with just big apartment buildings all around. But I thought, oh yes, everyone is watching from their windows. Because these apartment buildings had like ceiling to floor windows, and they're all standing watching. They're seeing me talk to this strange woman, strangely dressed. So I tore up the check and I gave her another check for 20,000. So that was the end of that. She didn't have any books. So then 2 weeks later, I was going to the bus terminal to go to New Haven, Connecticut to visit. And they saw me. The devotees there saw me. There he is! There he is! Oh no! But They surrounded me. And again, they started. You know, you've helped so nicely 2 weeks ago. You should help again.
Oh my God.
I thought, you gotta be crazy. But again, let's go uptown to your father's house. I couldn't say no. I just had read too many books, 3 hours a day for 6 months. So again, we went on the train. Again, I went upstairs. I came down with a check for another $20,000.
Oh my God.
And then I remember, she took the check and said, and she could see in my checkbook that was it. No more money. She said, you know, you've given all your money to Krishna, $40,000. Why don't you come to the temple and see what it's like? See where your money went to. That sounds like, you know, yeah. I've given all this money, I should go see where my money went to. And she told me, you know, you may not realize it, but now you are a life member. You can go to any of our temples in the world, London, Paris, and you can stay there. So, wow, that's the first practical thing I've heard. So that's how I started going to the temple. I was very nervous. Getting off the train at, what was it? Going to Brooklyn? I never go to Brooklyn for anything. Brooklyn's not like it the way it is today. It's just, nothing was happening in Brooklyn. But I got off the train at, was it Bergen?
Bergen Street.
Yeah. Was it the G or the GG or something?
G
The
with
F. The N T and the F.
No, F doesn't go to Bergen, does it?
No,
is that what it does? Oh, okay. So, I was walking from the subway, and 3 blocks away I could smell the incense in the air and hear the ching, 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 ching. I was very nervous. What's happening? Then I approached the building, walked up the front steps, opened the door, and they had an official greeter there. A devotee whose job was simply to greet guests as they came in the door. So as soon as I opened the door, he said, "Welcome, brother, you've come to the right place." So all my anxiety faded away. Come on in, take off your shoes, go in the temple room, move your feet around to the music. So that was, and then of course after the kirtan it was time for the feast. Wow. You don't know what a feast is like compared to those days. At least 10, 12 preparations. So, that was November of 72. By February of 73, I was living in the ashram.
Wow.
All right, there's the story. Prabhupada's mercy.
Did you get the Bhagavatam? Yeah.
They didn't have them at the temple, so I had to ultimately order them from Los Angeles.
Oh my God.
So I had got them before any devotees in the temple, because they were waiting for their shipment to come, but I had my own copies beforehand. First canto.
Maharaj, do you remember they had small portions of the Bhagavatam, like with paper bound. Do you remember those?
Yes, I had some of those. Yeah.
And was it Devi Shakti who
Mm.
you met?
Yes.
Yeah, because she'd bring whole cases of books to the Port Authority, and that way she could just distribute all day. She'd never run out. She had cases.
But they didn't, at that time, they didn't have the Bhagavatam, the new Bhagavatam volumes. Didn't have it.
What was your father's response to your transaction to this new lifestyle?
I never told anyone. One day I just disappeared. I knew there could be no negotiation, no arbitration, no discussion. It was like you're flying in an airplane. The only way to get off is open the door and jump. I knew no discussion was going to be possible. Later I found out that he wanted my mother, because it takes 2 parents to sign to commit your son to a mental institution. He wanted to do that. My mother wouldn't do it though.
So you emptied his bank account?
No, it was my money.
Oh, you...
He didn't know. It was my money.
How did you have 40,000 at 21 years of age?
What can I say? Karma. It's my karma. It's just, you know, I always had some money since I was even when I was 8 years old. Somewhere or other, I always had it. But I gave it all. I had read so much about Krishna. One thing, before I associated with devotees, while I was reading the books, I kept reading about offering your food to Krishna, yes, and taking the remnants. But I don't know about Russian, but in English, I had a literal understanding of the word remnants. What remains.
Yeah.
Is it the same in Russian?
Yeah.
So I thought, this is crazy. You cook food, you offer it to Krishna, and then you empty out the pot, and whatever clings to the bottom, the remnants, the remainder, that's what you take. It's a literal understanding of remnants. I said, I'm not doing this. This doesn't make any sense. That shows you how you need to read the books in association of devotees. But now that you are asking me questions, I can remember when I was 5 years old, I kept having these repeated dreams that I was flying through the air without an airplane, just me flying through the air and landing in a place where it was very cold and the people were very pale and they were so desperate to see me. And then I would fly back. I kept having that dream over and over again when I was 5 years old. I couldn't figure it out.
There is some story posted online about your mother's prayers. Maybe you can say something about it.
But my point was, when I started going to the Slavic countries, then I understood the dream.
Pale people. Interesting.
Go through the air and land there. They were living in difficult circumstances, and they were so happy to see me. Then I would leave and then come back again. I remember I couldn't figure this dream out. I had it repeatedly when I was 5 years old. Then when I started going to the Soviet bloc, I understood the dream. So, you wanted to know what?
Your mother had some special prayers before you were born.
Well, my mother told me some years ago, she said, do you know what I was thinking of while you were being conceived? I said, no. I was praying to God to send me his servant. So I said, well, slightly, possibly, maybe, your prayer sort of, maybe could have a little bit been fulfilled. But she told me, but I meant for Jesus, not Krishna. I told her, next time be more specific. So, my real life story is without Srila Prabhupada's mercy, I would be a total disaster. Reminds you of Sanatana Goswami explaining himself to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nicha jati nicha sangi patita adama ku vishaya kupe padi goinanu janama. I'm low-born, all my associates are low class. I spent my whole life at the bottom of the well of sinful materialism. That's the real life story. The greatest authority in Gaudiya Vaishnavism is presenting himself to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in that way. So who am I to say anything different? If Sanatana Goswami is saying that about himself, what can we say about ourselves? All right, time for prasad. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
His Holiness Devamrita Swami Maharaj.
Jai.